Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you some of the best college football news, predictions, and analysis. Make sure to like this video, go follow us on Twitter at Gridiron Expert, and check out everything we have to offer over at thegridironexpert.com, where you can sign up for our weekly newsletter and also sign up for our expert picks. The links for all those things are in the description below, so do not miss out on any of the extra college football content. Well, guys, we are entering the last Saturday in October, which means we are approaching the start of the college football playoff rankings. Those set of rankings will be coming out in just a few weeks, and when they do, we will switch our analysis from the AP Top 25 poll to start analyzing the college football playoff Top 25. And on top of that, we're going to give you our rankings. We'll actually rank our top 25 teams, so you'll get 2 videos per week breaking down the set of rankings, which I know everybody seems to enjoy. But for now, we're going to stick with breaking down the new set of the AP Top 25, entering a huge Week 9 in college football. And we'll just jump right into it, kind of talking about whether we agree or disagree and what to expect entering this week. And we'll start looking at the top 10 here, where really you can see about the top 14 teams really can be considered college football playoff contenders. Top 10 more than anybody else. But maybe top 14 and throw Minnesota in there, a team that I don't think should be ranked as low as 17th. But regardless, your top 14 are still playoff contenders. Top 10, absolutely. And there were not many shifts this week in the top 10. Alabama and LSU both remained number 1 and number 2, and that will not change probably until they meet up in a few weeks in the game of the century. So we might be lucky. Barring anything crazy, you'll have number 1 Alabama taking on number 2 LSU at Bryant-Denny Stadium, and hopefully for that game, Tua Tagovailoa will be back. You want to have everybody at full strength when you're going up in a game like that. Then Tua, getting hurt against Tennessee, will miss the Arkansas game, which is not a big deal, get to bye week, and then has LSU. He should be back in time for that game. It's not that big of an injury, just a high ankle sprain. So keep your eye on that Alabama and LSU matchup coming up in a few weeks. Those 2 rankings should remain unchanged leading up into that moment. Ohio State moved up 1 spot with their domination of Northwestern at Ryan Field. So despite what has happened the past couple years where Ohio State has struggled against Big Ten West opponents, they took care of their Big Ten West opponents this year. Annihilated Northwestern and annihilated Nebraska, both of which were on the road for the Buckeyes. So once again, I don't know any team, at least until maybe the college football playoff, that can take down Ohio State. Their biggest test is probably Penn State. That's probably the toughest test they have left, and the Buckeyes get to host that game against the Nittany Lions. So watch out for Ryan Day and the Buckeyes, sitting at number 3 right now and looking very unstoppable. Clemson, sitting at number 4, actually dropped a spot. A very shaky performance once again from Trevor Lawrence. Not looking like the quarterback that we have seen or that we saw back in 2018. A lot of struggles, a lot of turnovers so far this season. But Clemson, of course, still one of the top 4 teams in the country, at least top 5 team in the country, taking easy care of Louisville on the road this past Saturday. You have Oklahoma at 5. Penn State moved up a spot to number 6 with their huge win over now number 19 Michigan. And Florida moved up 2 spots to number 7 with an impressive victory on the road against South Carolina. One of those crazy weather games that you have to deal with. Florida taking care of business. Kyle Trask, career high 4 touchdowns. Defense stepped up. May have gotten some help from the referees as well. But regardless, the Gators, sitting at number 7, have a huge date against Georgia coming up after a bye week. And, of course, the Bulldogs right now sitting at number 10, despite struggling mightily against Kentucky. Only winning that game 21-0, and once again, Kentucky using Lynn Bowden at quarterback, a wide receiver. So keep that in mind for Georgia going forward, how they have struggled. Lost to South Carolina, didn't look as dominant against Kentucky. How will they fare in Jacksonville facing off against the Gators, who are absolutely looking like SEC title contenders and college football playoff contenders? Auburn right now also moved back into the top 10. They dropped out after that loss to Florida, got a bye week, annihilated Arkansas. They're back in at number 9, have a huge date against LSU this Saturday, number 2 versus number 9 in Death Valley. A major game, not just for the SEC West, but for the college football playoff. This game will determine who's going to be behind Alabama entering the remainder of the season. Who's going to be number 2 in the West? Auburn, of course, yet to play LSU, yet to play Alabama. So if the Tigers can take care of the Tigers and the Crimson Tide, they are a lock for not just this SEC title, but I would assume the college football playoff as well. Of course, they have to win the title, but I think the Tigers could take care of a Georgia or maybe a rematch against Florida. We've seen it happen before. So keep an eye on Auburn this week with a huge day against LSU in Death Valley. So they cracked the top 10 once again, and Wisconsin, a team that dropped out, making room for Auburn in this new top 10. Wisconsin, that stunning loss to Illinois. Once again, any given Saturday cannot take any opponent for granted. Wisconsin maybe overlooked that game against Ohio State coming up this Saturday, dropping out of the top 10, dropping down to 13th. So, shocking stuff in the world of college football, but that's what makes the game so great. And we'll touch more on that here in a second. Missouri and Washington both dropped out of this new set of top 25. Washington was 25th anyway, so that loss to Oregon was a guaranteed dropout for them. Missouri somehow went on the road and fell to Vanderbilt, a team that lost by 24 points to UNLV the week before, held Missouri and their high-octane offense led by Kelly Bryant to just 14 points in Nashville. So Missouri absolutely deserving to drop out. And Missouri, guys, they had it set. If you're a Missouri fan, I'm sorry, because you controlled your own destiny in the East. Yeah, you hadn't played Florida yet. You hadn't played Georgia yet, but you were the lone remaining unbeaten team in the SEC East, and you went on the road and fell to Vanderbilt. Seems like a very Missouri thing to do. Two new teams did crack the top 25, though. Iowa State coming in at number 23 and Wake Forest coming in at number 25. Both these teams, having been ranked previously this season, have been in and out over the course of the season. Maybe these two will now be in there to stay. Going to be very interesting to see, but Iowa State, an impressive win over Texas Tech, and Wake Forest, a very good win over Florida State. An absolutely thrilling game, kind of like that Florida-South Carolina game. Very stormy, rainy, wet, sloppy, but Wake Forest got the job done, winning by just 2 points. A couple big risers that we have in this new set of rankings. Baylor was one of the biggest ones. Actually, they were the biggest. You know, Emperor of Rome, I keep giving you a shout-out because I liked what you said, and I wholeheartedly agree with it. A couple weeks ago, Emperor of Rome came out and said that he thinks Baylor, and he said it was a hot take, but Baylor should be in the top 10. And after their performance on the road, I should add, against Oklahoma State, I kind of agree with him. I think Baylor should at least be in the top 12 right now. Now, some will say, do you really think Baylor's better than Wisconsin? Do you think they're better than Utah, Oregon, Georgia? I would like to see a matchup with those squads on a neutral site because I think Baylor would absolutely hold their own, and in some cases, yes, would beat these squads. The Bears are the real deal. They're up 4 spots from 18th to 14th. They get to host Oklahoma. They get to host Texas, who they jumped in the rankings because Texas narrowly beat Kansas. They get to host both of them. They're undefeated right now. Matt Rule has his Bears in a prime position to not just make the Big 12 championship, but if they can win at least one of those games, or maybe both, make the college football playoff. And that's something that no one expected entering 2019. A lot of teams moved up 3 spots in these rankings. SMU, Minnesota, Cincinnati, Iowa, and Appalachian State all moving up just 3 spots. Big risers, especially for those group of 5 schools. And it should be noted that after Boise State's loss to BYU last Saturday, SMU is now the highest ranked group of 5 team. Why is that a big deal? Because the highest ranked group of 5 conference champion makes a New Year's Six bowl game. And SMU is absolutely looking like the best group of 5 team in the country right now. Once again, under Sonny Dykes, undefeated, an amazing bounce-back year for them. An amazing bounce-back for this program, but an amazing year for him in a very short tenure, a short amount of time with this Mustangs program. They are 16th in the country. Cincinnati, though, right behind them, same conference at number 18. SMU and Cincinnati could meet up in the American Athletic Conference Championship game. And if that is the case, a spot in a New Year's Six bowl game could be on the line if they do, in fact, meet up in December. But don't disregard Appalachian State out of the Sun Belt. They became the first Sun Belt team to win as a ranked team. Don't count out Boise State. Yes, they lost to the BYU. That's fine. But you have 4 teams right now out of the group of 5 in this new top 25 rankings, and SMU, Cincinnati, or App State could fall at some point, even in their conference championship games, which leaves the door open for Boise State despite a crushing loss to BYU. So keep an eye out for these group of 5 teams, guys. SMU in the lead right now, but it's far from over. Bigger fallers, as we all know, Wisconsin dropped 7 spots from 6th to 13th, and I'm surprised they didn't drop farther after losing to a Illinois team that only had 2 wins. Lovie Smith got his signature win with the Fighting Illini, but Wisconsin, overlooking them in preparation for that Ohio State game, fall from 6th to 13th. Boise State down 8 spots from 14th to 22nd with that loss to BYU, as we mentioned. And then Arizona State also down 7 spots, a pretty big drop for Herm Edwards and the Sun Devils, dropping from 17th to 24th after their 21-3 beatdown at the hands of now number 12 Utah. A game that we expected Utah to win, but we expected it to be a little bit closer. But the Utes kind of flexed their muscles on defense, shut down Eno Benjamin, shut down Jaden Daniels, held the Sun Devils to less than 150 yards of total offense. And that is impressive regardless of what team you are and regardless of what the stakes are. So Arizona State still in the top 25, but now getting a little separation for Utah and USC in the Pac-12 South. Breaking it down conference by conference, there's a new leader in terms of representatives in this new top 25. The Big Ten has the most teams in Week 9, with 6 teams in the top 25. The SEC right behind them with 5 teams, but it should be noted that the SEC, all 5 of those teams are in the top 10. Alabama, LSU, Florida, Auburn, Georgia, all from the SEC. Half of the top 10 made up of the SEC teams. Every SEC team that is ranked is in the top 10. There is something to be said for that. The Big 12 sits at 4 teams in there, as well as the Group of 5. So the Big 12 and Group of 5 are tied with 4 teams in this top 25, which means the Group of 5 has more teams in the top 25 than the Pac-12, which has 3, and the ACC, which has 2. Once again, these Group of 5 teams, guys, should not be messed with, should not be overlooked, should not be taken for granted. They are the real deal. SMU, Cincinnati, Boise State, App State, they can beat some of these teams that are in the top 25 right now. Never disregard some of these Group of 5 opponents. And then, of course, Notre Dame, the lone independent, rounds out your top 25. You can't really rank the independents. The only one that could maybe make a case to be in there would be Army and BYU on a good year. Not now, but on a good year. And, of course, they're not anywhere near that point in 2019. So Notre Dame coming in at number 8. As we mentioned, a couple of huge ranked versus ranked matchups that we're all going to have breakdown when we do our Week 9 predictions, which will be coming out tomorrow. But you've got number 13 Wisconsin traveling to number 3 Ohio State. A game that would be so much better had Wisconsin just beat Illinois. Had they just taken care of business in Champaign, we would have a top 10 showdown in Columbus. Still, you have a top 15 showdown. Should be a good one. 2 great defenses. We're going to address that game later on this week. Number 9, Auburn, as we mentioned, traveling to number 2, LSU. A huge SEC West showdown. Conference implications, college football playoff implications. You do not want to miss that one on Saturday afternoon. And then, of course, a rivalry game. Number 8, Notre Dame, traveling to number 19, Michigan. Notre Dame's college football playoff hopes still very much alive. Michigan, there's not so much. But can they bounce back after a crushing loss to the hands of Penn State? Rivalry games, you throw records, you throw the past, you throw history out the window. It's going to be a fun one Saturday night in Ann Arbor. So there you have it, your Week 9 Top 25 rankings, courtesy of the AP, courtesy of the Associated Press. But we won't be doing this much longer. Very soon we will be having our college football playoff rankings, and those are the ones that matter the most. Those are the ones that will shape the college football playoff later on in December. And I can promise you don't want to miss our analysis on those, and you don't want to miss the rankings that we draw up ourselves later on here in a few weeks. So guys, thank you for watching us here on YouTube. Go follow us on Twitter at Gridiron Expert. Go check out gridironexpert.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Sign up for the expert picks. And as always, thank you for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time on the Gridiron Expert.